Our pace of living leaves us little time for leisure. Our program will give you a chance to experience the fascinating world of traveling, extreme adventures, hunting and fishing. Each week we will take you to the most beautiful places of Kazakhstan. Today we set off for Irkutsk to see how a good game reserve is managed with our own eyes in the east of the Russian Federation, and at the same time to talk to people of the rare occupation. We could only buy tickets to Irkutsk through Moscow, so we are now flying to Moscow. We are changing planes there, having to wait for the Irkutsk plane for 1 hour, and tomorrow morning at 9 AM we should be in Irkutsk. The way to Irkutsk takes us 24 hours, including the hour of waiting for the other plane. At the airport, we are met by Victor, and we head for the Tamarinskaya game reserve straight away.
Мы приехали в Иркутск в рамках программы обмена опытом.
We've arrived in Irkutsk as part of the exchange program for the better management of game reserves and for learning from the best and successful practices of wildlife management. We've chosen Game Reserve Tamarinskaya for a good reason. Upon results of a competition, a jury of international experts recognized this game reserve as the best of its own kind. Experience gained in this hunting area is suggested to specialists for the increasing of the number of hoofed animals in a game reserve. The place is popular with hunt experts from different CIS countries for field seminars held and supervised by Professor Melnikov.
Вообще вот этот обмен охотниками дело чрезвычайно полезное.
This sharing ideas and experience is an extremely useful practice. When some studies about developing of this kind of tourism were held, one of the most important aspects, second to the getting of the decent trophy, and enjoyment from the hunt, is learning about the different country, its people and their traditions. Vladislav Konstantinovich reads a course of lectures in the Department of Forestry and Fishery at Kazakhstan's Agrarian University, named after Seyfulin. Usually the thing people notice while hunting is the process itself, but the huge amount of work, which is game reserve management, remains unnoticed.
Охота на самом деле это вершина айсберга, видимая.
The hunt is, in fact, a visible tip of an iceberg, and the rest of it is the invisible body hidden in water. That is daily monotonous routine for improving the hunting area, protecting wildlife and building infrastructures. The hunting season lasts only 2, maximum 3 months. But the wildlife protection, care and breeding of the game species takes the whole 12 months of the year.
Вот это большое глухаринное болото, через него проложена гать.
This is the largest Katarkalis marsh. Across the marshland, there is a path and walking elsewhere is not recommended. You walk only along these log paths. Huntsmen are professionals that are devoted to protecting and managing wildlife resources. People who are not aware of what this occupation involves may think that all these people do is hunting all the time. In fact, the job of the huntsman includes so many duties and routines that they have to acquire other professions. A good huntsman has to be a biologist, a lawyer, a police officer, a farmer, a mechanic, a builder, a vet, an agronomist, and at the same time he should be good at working with clients. He should have good communication skills. In the Soviet Union, there were only 2 higher education institutions that prepared such specialists, in Irkutsk and in Kiev. The competition among candidates wishing to study at those institutes was as tough as 30 candidates per one place. So weak, unprepared applicants had no chance to become a qualified specialist. The school of preparing huntsmen in the USSR was considered to be excellent. After becoming a sovereign state, Kazakhstan started to develop its own school of hunting area management, and Vladislav Konstantinovich took active part in establishing this
То
field.
есть в Казахстане есть такие прекрасные национальные охоты, которые
In Kazakhstan, there are wonderful national kinds of hunting that do not exist anywhere else. For example, hunting with birds of prey, even for the wolf. It's well known here. Victor's circumstances dictated not following in his father's footsteps. Victor became a business person, but his great passion for nature and hunting made him study again to create a game reserve in the Irkutsk region.
Охотничье хозяйство можно условно разделить на два типа. На так называемые олигархические, когда богатые люди...
Game reserves can be divided into two types. So-called oligarchic, it's when rich people support the existence of the game reserve for their own entertainment, and the industrial one. Such game reserves have to survive relying on what they themselves can earn. The vast majority of game reserves are Type 2 hunting areas. They are common both in Russia and in Kazakhstan. They are having hard times, of course. They have to work a lot, spend a lot of money and efforts to earn a little money to make their ends meet. The game reserve is situated in 130 kilometers from Irkutsk. It's a densely populated agricultural region where poaching is quite common. When in the early 2000s Victor set up his game reserve, he had almost no wild animals on the territory. The hard 1990s had a negative impact not only on the local agriculture, but also on the wildlife. Being unemployed, local people often survived by all means, including poaching.
Когда приобрели эти угодья, животный мир был очень пострадавший.
When we got this land, there were very few animals. We had very few roe deer, common deer, and Manchurian wapiti were rare. When we started to protect them, their number started to rise. It was not easy to persuade local people not to commit poaching. Through conflicts and the court, they were eventually deterred from the killing of wild animals. They realized that the land had the legal owner who is ready to protect the territory not on the paper, but for real. We have had deforestation and fires here. The wood was all burned. Now we are reviving it. We can see that young trees have grown to 2 meters. The wood usually recovers starting from birch trees. Then it's the turn for fir and pine trees. Apart from tough administrative measures, the game reserve owner uses economic motivation to make his neighbors stop poaching. On the international market of hunting tourism, the cost of the hunting package is a lot higher than the meat of the game. Rich tourist hunters started to pay for the hunt. They started to pay not only for the trophy, but also for various kinds of service offered by a local population, such as horse rentals, offering visitors a stay in their homes, selling various goods made locally, such as nuts and honey. Members of the community began to disapprove their fellow who wants to poach. Poaching is considered antisocial practice that makes the community poorer. At the beginning, there were no foreign visitors to the game reserve. The small amount of game did not allow the management to offer the service to foreigners.
Особенно большие требования к охотхозяйству налагает трофейная интур-охота.
Foreign visitor hunters are particularly demanding to the service the game reserve offers. They have high requirements to the amount of game and the quality of service and the quality of the infrastructure. We have to work hard and a lot to live up to foreign visitors' expectations. Hunters from Europe have got used to hunting in game reserves with a large amount of game in the hunting area. When they come to the hunting area where they have to ramble in the wood for a few days without even seeing the game, they might be very surprised. Some may even sue the organizers of the tour for swindling. Vladislav Konstantinovich shares his son's passion and visits the game reserve to apply the theory of wildlife management that he has explored in his doctorate degree dissertation in practice.
Охотничьи животные при уже чуть-чуть немножко интенсивном хозяйстве, они представляют
Game can become a natural resource as well as a product of human labor from the economic point of view, provided that there is intensive hunting management. This should include protection and feeding of the wild animals and regulating their populations. This is the economic aspect of the game reserve management. The animals are not completely wild, but they are not domesticated either. The principles of work are the same as that of farming. As a matter of fact, there are various strategies of preserving nature. Each of them may prove effective in certain socio-economic conditions, while being useless in others. Which system is suitable for the post-Soviet Union states, where there's peculiar socio-economic environment and rural residence mentality? These questions are the subject of Vladislav Konstantinovich's numerous publications. They are also the subject for his students at Agro-Technical University.
Я высказываю свою точку зрения по поводу выделения квот или лимитов.
From my point of view, allocating quotas on hunting for wild animals is still quite centralized. We're still used to a centralized kind of wildlife management without being aware of the needs in such a specific field as the accurate evaluation of wildlife resources. In the Soviet Union era, there was a system of orders on what should be produced by each of the republics from Kaliningrad to Kamchatka. But local foresters know their resources better and are able to allocate quotas and limits in their own region. This practice of reasonable management of wildlife resources is the only effective solution. The growth in the number of wild animals depends on two major factors: protection and the availability of food. Both require a lot of hard work. Forestry officers have to make regular raids in their hunting area, and when there is little vegetation for the host species, they supply it for the game reserve species.
Когда поле полностью уже выбито, привозим рулонов.
When there is almost no grass in the area, we bring hay rolls and add them to the game's rations. 10 years ago, one could come across single traces of elk. As a result of efficient management, their number has been increasing since then, and now there are from about 40 to 200 species of elk. However, the roe deer experienced a disaster. It was a very cold winter, and the number of the wild animals dropped to a minimum. But the census conducted last year and this spring revealed that the wild animals' populations are recovering. Next year, Victor is planning to increase the amount of game to its maximum. Currently, there are 7 bears, about a dozen of minks, and several wolf packs.
Итого мы насчитали 15 кормовых полей. Возле каждого кормового поля
We have counted 15 fields for feeding. Near each of them, there's a guard's point. It's a little wooden cabin where one can spend a night after hunting or while doing the winter census. We assume the game reserve has all the necessary facilities. Being professor of biology studies, Vladislav Konstantinovich has done a doctorate dissertation in the economy of managing game reserves. He emphasizes the importance of economic sustainability for a successful game reserve in his lectures.